into some unforeseen things on this job. The customer didn't know about it. We had some inklings in the beginning, but we didn't know how bad it was going to get until we started cracking the ground open. We were originally hired just to rebuild the retaining wall, a couple wing walls on each side of it. And then when we were doing our initial investigation into the site, we looked at the deck footings and they were jacked up and out of the ground by 6 inches, 8 inches in places, and the whole deck was kittywampus. Then that should have been our first sign that something bad was happening. So these are still the old dirt tracks on this skid loader, and after this video was shot, we actually switched over to the snow tracks. And one of the questions guys have asked me is, well, don't snow tracks work good in dirt? And they do. They're actually phenomenal. I think they're better in dirt than they are. Yeah, they're just phenomenal in dirt. Let's just put it that way. The reason we switch them back and forth is we do a lot of demolition. And when you're doing a lot of demolition, you can run over concrete or rebar or chunks of stuff that you really shouldn't be running over and create big gouges and tears in it. And we just want to save the tracks. This is kind of cool. So this is how we load our excavators. I'm sure a lot of guys do it, but here you can actually see what we're doing is extending the boom out. That way we don't get a teeter-totter effect with the excavator. And he just gently lowers it right down onto the trailer. Don't slam nothing. Don't jar the operator, nothing like that. Just bloop. Nice and gentle. The Daewoo is actually off to another retaining wall project that we're working on that you're going to see that has worse water than the one you're going to see today.
Springs on those, huh?
But it's not the end of the world. It just means we got to fix it. So we're building, we originally hired to build a terraced retaining wall. And so you can see where Tim's got the bottom wall in, and then they're just digging out for the top wall. I mean, it's one of the things that Zach was measuring there was to make sure that we keep the proper distance. One of the things that guys tend to cheat on terraced retaining walls is instead of going through the process of getting engineering, they put terraced retaining walls too close together. Now the rule is for the top retaining wall not to put a surcharge on the bottom retaining wall. You have to take the height of the bottom retaining wall, so if it's 4 foot, and double it for the spacing between the terraces, or have 8 foot of terrace, and that way you don't have any surcharge going from one wall onto the other wall. And when you squeeze them terraces too close together, you're actually putting more weight on the bottom terrace than you were if you just made it all one wall. It's actually a worse scenario by snugging 2 walls too close together without compensating for it. And that's one of the things that you see a lot of guys doing to get away from going and buying a permit, going and having the expense of getting an engineer to sign off on it. But ultimately, it's probably the worst possible thing you can do. And you guys see that snow coming down? That's gonna have a pretty big impact on us on another video.
Now we're on the other side of the house, kind of same spot as the upper wall over here, and we need another step down. So that's what we're gonna start working on right now.
And it's snowing.
And it's snowing, and it's, what is it, the 20th today of October?
Yeah.
Yeah, so little bit weird weather for this time of year, but it's been one of those years, so hard to schedule anything. Rainy, wet, hot. We did get some nice dry weather here, what, about a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, we had good conditions for that other side.
Finishing up the boulder wall was great. It turned out to dry out for us, and then the dirt was actually really dry for a while there.
Yep. I can't believe that grass is already growing in there.
Yeah.
So what Tim is doing right here is he's actually basing a step down. And the reason he's got 2 blocks on top of each other is because he's actually the grade drops down. And so we've got to keep the right amount buried. And so that's how we create a step down, is then we fill up that gap with the rock, and then we can bridge over that, but enough block stays buried. This is what we're finding. Look behind Alex right now. Look at the deck footings. You see how far up those are above the patio? Those deck footings were originally set at patio height. You can actually see it right behind Alex. That footing set at patio height, and all the ones alongside of them were popped out of the ground. That's because this water in this trench, it freezes and then it thaws, and it freezes and thaws. But what happens is when it freezes, it expands. When it thaws, it doesn't contract, because once it expands, as that frost is moving out of the ground, the fines from the soil fill it in and continually raise everything up. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually put in a drain tile system to mitigate this water, because the water in this case, you can see, is not very far below the groundwater table. I mean, not very far, not very deep down. But luckily we've actually got a pond just behind us, and we're gonna dig an outlet all the way to the pond.
Well, this house was having some water issues. We were just digging to hook up our drain tile, and there's just lots of trapped water in this thing.
This might not be trapped.
It's making
It
its
might
way
be a
down
spring.
here, down to this runoff area. But there was a lot more water trapped in the house than I thought there was. Got our little makeshift silt sock down here. But yeah, she's gushing out of there pretty good. Just what you want in November.
All right, so I'm gonna get that bad boy fired up. I'm gonna recut some of these caps, get them re-glued, dialed in where they need to be. And then I'm gonna go help Tim fill in that long old run of drain tile going back to the pond. While them other 2 are over there starting to backfill that wall. And then once we get that done, we're all gonna come over here, get this backfilled, and clean up and get on out of here, so that Tim and I can be out on our site, mine and Blaine's site, tomorrow, because it sounds like he's going to be out for the rest of the week.
So what Sam was actually talking about was Blaine ended up hurting his back. And so they're in the middle of a much nastier site than what Tim has got going on here. And so we're trying to get through this one real fast so that we can put all our resources, all our manpower and guys out on that site. Those wing walls look really nice. This other side wasn't as wet as the other side was. So this is, if you're looking on the back side of the property, this is the left side, and the other side was the right side. Tim's on the right side right now, and you can see how bad this is.
Measure once, right? Is that how the saying goes?
Yeah. Measure once, cut twice.
We're down the center of that one. Say that's probably it right there, huh?
Yeah, it looks about right.
One of the things to point out to you guys is the fact that you'll see that part of the trench is wrapped in fabric.
And we finished digging
And
that
part of it's
trench
not.
out. So we're gonna, of course, the water's still moving through it. So there must have been a lot of trapped water in this foundation. The old drain tile system wasn't doing anything, so how many years was it not going anywhere, you know?
Yeah.
Should help dry it out now.
So the reason I want to point out that some of this actually has filter fabric wrap is That's all a permeable system. It's going to be filled with rock and it becomes an active French drain. But at some point we just want to get that water to flow and go. So where we know we're not worried about building a French drain, we then convert to a hard pipe and extend it all the way out. So this is the area where we've switched from a French drain to just a hard pipe. At that point, we're just trying to get the water to go right down to the pond as fast as we possibly can. We're not worried about sucking up any of the groundwater from that area because it's not jeopardizing anything, and it's close enough to the pond that if it's gonna flow, it's gonna go. So the boys have some light grading to do, and we had a little bit of extra stuff that we had on these unexpected surprises kind of delayed us on this project, but we were able to get through it and able to get this dried up. And so the boys are now all working out on one site that we're hopefully going to be able to bang out real quick and show you the video on that. It's literally the worst project of the year. And I think I may even title the video that, simply because we're on another retaining wall, started to dig it out, and this same scenario happened, except for the water has no outlet and the water is literally streaming through it. Now on this site, Tim keeps calling it trapped water, which I think another technical term might be called perched water, depending on what part of the world you're from, right? But there's also, I think, a possibility that there could be a potential spring down there. Looking at how much water was flowing and how fast it was flowing, it may not be trapped, it may be continual. And that's our video for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you guys stick around if you don't mind, because we got a lot of more cool stuff coming down the pipeline, and we'll hopefully connect with you on another one. God bless. Go get them, you guys, and we'll see you next time.